The silent enemy living inside your body. Your legs feel heavy. Your feet look like balloons. By the end of the day, you can barely put on the shoes that fit perfectly in the morning. This feeling is far more common than it seems, and it affects millions of people around the world without them knowing exactly why. The swelling in the legs and feet has a technical name: edema. It happens when excess fluid accumulates in the body's tissues, usually in the lower limbs, where gravity does its silent work throughout the hours. What is really happening inside you? This accumulation rarely happens by chance. It is almost always a sign that something is out of balance, whether the blood circulation is functioning below its ideal, the lymphatic system is overloaded, or a low-grade chronic inflammation is acting on the tissues without giving any warning. In many cases, the problem is directly linked to what you eat or fail to eat every day. The good news is that certain foods have a proven ability to help the body eliminate this excess fluid, reduce inflammation, and improve circulation naturally, without the side effects of pharmacological diuretics. What makes this subject even more fascinating is that these foods are not rare or hard to find. They are available at any market or grocery store, many of them at a very low cost. The difference between those who suffer from chronic swelling and those who manage to keep their legs light and healthy often comes down to knowing how to use what nature already offers. That is exactly the knowledge you will find from here on. But before revealing the foods, you need to understand why this fluid accumulates, because without knowing the cause, any solution will be only temporary. Why your body retains fluid without you asking. The human body is made up of approximately 60% water, distributed among cells, around them, and inside blood and lymphatic vessels. When the system that regulates this balance fails, the result is fluid accumulation in the tissues, especially in the extremities. One of the most common causes is excessive sodium consumption. The salt hidden in ultra-processed foods, deli meats, ready-made seasonings, and sandwich bread causes the body to retain water to dilute the concentration of sodium in the blood. Another relevant factor is lack of movement. When you spend many hours sitting or standing without moving, blood and lymphatic fluid lose momentum to circulate, and the fluid begins to settle in the lower parts of the body. The other triggers that nobody mentions: deficiencies in potassium and magnesium, hormonal imbalances, prolonged use of certain medications, and conditions such as venous insufficiency, heart or kidney problems also contribute to edema. Water retention can be further aggravated by poor sleep, since during sleep the body carries out hormonal regulation processes that directly affect fluid balance. For this reason, this content is informational in nature and does not replace the evaluation of a doctor, especially if the swelling is intense, persistent, or accompanied by other symptoms such as shortness of breath, chest pain, or changes in urine. Did you know there is a food composed of 95% water that paradoxically helps the body eliminate the excess fluid that is bothering you? Cucumber, the natural regulator. You underestimate every day. It seems contradictory, but eating a food full of water can help the body eliminate the fluid it is retaining. Cucumber is the perfect example of this. Composed of approximately 95% water, it is also a generous source of potassium, a mineral that acts directly on the regulation of sodium in the body. When potassium levels are adequate, the kidneys can excrete excess sodium much more efficiently, and along with the sodium goes a good part of the retained fluid. In addition, cucumber contains flavonoids such as fisetin, which inhibit enzymes involved in inflammatory processes and help reduce visible swelling in the tissues. How to use cucumber the right way. The best way to consume cucumber is fresh and with the skin on, because it is in the skin that a large part of the nutrients and fibers are concentrated. Slices as an afternoon snack, in salads, or infused in water throughout the day are simple and effective ways to include this ally in your routine. Consistency is what makes the difference. A single day of cucumber will not solve it, but a week of regular consumption can already produce noticeable results in the legs and feet. A practical tip that few people know is to combine cucumber with mint and lemon in your daily drinking water. This mixture enhances the diuretic effects of each ingredient and makes it much easier to reach your daily hydration goal, which in itself already contributes to reducing fluid retention. Try preparing a liter of this infused water the night before and drinking it throughout the following day. The result after a few days is usually visible. The next food is sweet, juicy, and has a secret ingredient that science has discovered to be capable of dilating blood vessels and improving blood flow in an expressive way. Watermelon. the sweet weapon against swelling that science approves. Watermelon is much more than a refreshing summer fruit. It contains an amino acid called citrulline, present in large quantities in its reddish pulp. Citrulline is converted by the body into arginine, which in turn stimulates the production of nitric oxide, a substance that relaxes and dilates blood vessels. With the vessels more relaxed, blood circulates more easily, pressure on the walls of the veins decreases, and fluid is less likely to leak into the surrounding tissues. In addition to citrulline, watermelon provides potassium and magnesium, two fundamental electrolytes for the body's fluid balance. The part of watermelon everyone throws away and shouldn't. The ideal is to consume a generous portion of fresh watermelon daily, preferably without mixing it with sugar-rich foods. Natural juice with no added sugar also works very well, but the whole fruit better preserves fibers and nutrients. In the heat of summer, when swelling tends to worsen due to vasodilation caused by high temperatures, watermelon becomes even more valuable. It hydrates, refreshes, and combats edema at the same time. It is worth mentioning that the white part of the watermelon, that layer between the green rind and the red pulp, concentrates even more citrulline than the pulp itself. Many people discard exactly the richest part of the fruit. This portion can be processed into juices or used in salad and stir-fry recipes, making the most of the benefits the fruit has to offer. And what if you knew there was a vegetable with an amino acid so potent that it works for your kidneys without causing loss of essential minerals, unlike conventional diuretics? Asparagus, the natural diuretic that works for your kidneys. Asparagus is one of the vegetables with the greatest diuretic power found in nature. This effect is due to an amino acid called asparagine, found in high concentration in this vegetable, and which gives it even its scientific name, Asparagus officinalis. Asparagine stimulates the kidneys to filter and eliminate excess fluid much more efficiently, which translates into a visible reduction in swelling in a relatively short time. What makes asparagus especially valuable is that its diuretic effect does not come accompanied by excessive loss of essential minerals, as happens with conventional pharmacological diuretics. On the contrary, it is rich in B-complex vitamins, vitamin K, folate, and antioxidants that protect cells from damage caused by free radicals. The extra benefit of asparagus that few people know. The simplest way to prepare asparagus is steamed for about 5 to 7 minutes, just enough time to soften without destroying the nutrients. It can also be consumed grilled with a drizzle of olive oil and lemon, or added to soups and salads. Out of season, the frozen version preserves a good part of its properties and is a practical and accessible alternative for everyday life. A fact that surprises many people is that asparagus is also a relevant source of prebiotics, special fibers that feed the beneficial bacteria in the intestine. This intestinal balance is directly related to the control of systemic inflammation in the body, which means that asparagus also acts indirectly in reducing edema, taking care of intestinal health while stimulating the kidneys to work more efficiently. The next food comes from a tropical fruit and carries an enzyme that researchers around the world study as one of the most effective anti-inflammatory agents found in nature. Pineapple, the tropical fruit that deflates from the inside out. Pineapple carries a hidden treasure among its golden slices, an enzyme called bromelain. Bromelain is a protease, meaning an enzyme capable of breaking down proteins, and this ability has a direct effect on the body's inflammatory processes. Scientific studies have shown that it inhibits the production of pro-inflammatory substances and reduces fluid accumulation in tissues, which explains why pineapple has been used for centuries in medicinal traditions of different cultures to treat swelling and bruising. In addition, pineapple stimulates lymphatic circulation, the network of vessels responsible for collecting excess fluid from tissues and returning it to the bloodstream. When this system is slow, fluid accumulates and swelling worsens. Bromelain helps activate it and make it more efficient in drainage. How and when to eat pineapple for maximum effect? To obtain the greatest benefits, consume fresh pineapple and preferably on an empty stomach, when bromelain does not need to compete with other proteins coming from digestion and can act more fully on inflammatory processes. A small daily portion, equivalent to 2 or 3 medium slices, is already enough to notice the effects over time. Avoid canned or processed pineapple, as heat and sugar destroy a large part of the active bromelain. But what about a green seasoning that almost everyone has in the kitchen, and that hides a diuretic effect more potent than most people imagine? Parsley, the diuretic secret that was in your kitchen all along. Parsley is treated by most people as a simple plate garnish, that little green sprig left on the edge without being eaten. But those who ignore it are wasting one of the most powerful natural allies against fluid retention. It is rich in vitamin C, vitamin K, and flavonoid compounds such as apigenin, substances with a proven diuretic effect that act on the kidneys by stimulating the elimination of sodium and water from the body. Unlike artificial diuretics, parsley does not cause the loss of potassium. On the contrary, it is itself a source of this mineral, which means that while it eliminates excess fluid, it is replenishing the body with essential nutrients for muscular and cardiac function. The right way to use parsley and the mistake you should avoid. The most effective way to use parsley is in large quantities, not just as a garnish. Chopped generously over salads, added to soups, mixed into green juices, or used as the base of sauces like chimichurri, it delivers its anti-edema power consistently. It is also possible to prepare a simple tea with fresh leaves or stems steeped for 10 minutes, taken once or twice a day to enhance the diuretic effect. An important detail: when buying parsley, prefer the fresh and organic version whenever possible. Parsley grown with pesticides accumulates chemical residues in its leaves more intensely than other vegetables, and these residues can work against the benefits we are seeking. Washing well under running water and soaking in water with baking soda for a few minutes helps remove some of the surface residues and ensures you are making the most of the vegetable in the best possible way. The next item on the list is not a solid food, but a morning ritual of less than 2 minutes that can completely transform the way your body handles fluids throughout the day. Lemon, the morning ritual that wakes up your lymphatic system. Lemon is much more than a source of vitamin C. When consumed strategically, it acts as an activator of the lymphatic system, the network of vessels that collects excess fluid from the tissues and transports it back to the bloodstream. This system does not have a pump like the heart to drive its contents. It depends on muscle movement, breathing, and external stimuli to function properly. Lemon, with its flavonoids and citric acid, is exactly one of those stimuli. Furthermore, vitamin C is essential for the synthesis of collagen, the protein that makes up the structure of blood vessels. More intact and resilient vessels are less likely to leak fluid into the surrounding tissues, which directly helps in the prevention and treatment of edema. The 2-minute habit that changes everything. The most effective ritual is to drink, right upon waking, a glass of warm water with the juice of half a squeezed lemon. Warm water is absorbed more easily by the body in a fasting state and does not cause vessel constriction like cold water does. This habit, practiced regularly for a few weeks, tends to produce noticeable changes not only in swelling, but also in overall energy, digestion, and skin clarity. For those who do not enjoy the acidic taste of pure lemon, an alternative is to add a teaspoon of natural honey to the glass, which softens the flavor without compromising the benefits. Another option is to alternate between Sicilian lemon and regular lime throughout the week, since each variety has a slightly different profile of flavonoids and bioactive compounds, broadening the spectrum of benefits for the body over time. And what if the last food on this list were a root used for more than 2,000 years by different cultures, whose effects on inflammation and circulation are today confirmed by modern research? Ginger, the millenary root that accelerates circulation and combats swelling. Ginger is one of the most studied medicinal roots in modern science. The compounds responsible for its effects are mainly gingerols, present in fresh ginger, and shogahols, which form when it is dried or heated. Both inhibit enzymes and substances involved in inflammatory processes in a way comparable to some non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, but without the gastric side effects that these medications frequently cause. In the specific context of swelling, ginger acts on 2 fronts. It improves blood circulation in the capillaries and veins, reducing the stagnation that leads to fluid accumulation in the tissues, and it directly reduces inflammation in the vessels, which decreases their tendency to leak fluid into the surrounding space. The combination that multiplies the power of ginger. Consuming ginger daily is simple and enjoyable. The most effective form is tea prepared with thin slices of fresh ginger in hot water, steeped for about 10 minutes. 1 cup in the morning and another in the afternoon are enough to obtain the circulatory and anti-inflammatory benefits throughout the day. Ginger can also be grated and added to juices, soups, and seasonings, making its consumption even more versatile and easy to maintain. A particularly powerful combination is ginger tea with turmeric, another root with high-level anti-inflammatory properties. Together, these 2 roots create a synergistic effect on systemic inflammation that is superior to either one consumed alone. Adding a pinch of black pepper to this mixture further increases the absorption of the active compounds. Since the piperine present in pepper enhances the bioavailability of turmeric's curcumin, by up to 20 times. This content is informational in nature and does not replace the guidance of a doctor or nutritionist. But knowing the 7 foods is only half the way. There is something you probably do every day, without realizing it, that completely cancels out the effects of everything we have just presented. The invisible mistakes that sabotage your efforts against swelling. You can include all 7 foods in your routine and still see no results if you continue making some very common mistakes that work against your body. The first and most frequent is the excessive consumption of sodium hidden in seemingly harmless foods. Salted crackers, soy sauce, processed cheese, industrialized broth. Each one can contain hundreds of milligrams of sodium, and excess sodium instructs the body to retain water. No natural diuretic can completely compensate for this effect while sodium remains in excess in the diet. The second mistake is prolonged inactivity. Sitting or standing for many hours without moving causes lymphatic fluid to stagnate in the lower limbs. Walking 5 to 10 minutes every hour, making circular movements with the ankles, and stretching the calf already make a significant difference in circulation. The emotional saboteur that nobody associates with swelling. The third mistake is not drinking enough water. It seems paradoxical, but dehydration leads the body to enter conservation mode and retain even more fluid as a survival mechanism. The fourth mistake is ignoring temperature. Very hot baths and prolonged exposure to the sun dilate the superficial vessels and facilitate fluid leaking into the tissues. On days of intense heat, hydrate more, elevate your legs when possible, and limit time under direct sunlight. There is also a fifth saboteur that many people do not associate with swelling: chronic stress. When the body is under prolonged tension, it continuously releases cortisol, and this hormone instructs the kidneys to retain sodium, and consequently water. The result is swelling that has no obvious dietary cause, but responds directly to emotional state and the nervous system. Simple techniques such as deep breathing, regular outdoor walks, and a sleep routine of 7 to 9 hours per night have a direct impact on cortisol levels, and consequently, on the amount of fluid the body retains. Now that you know the right foods and the mistakes that need to be avoided, there is a specific sign that may indicate that your swelling goes beyond a dietary issue and requires immediate medical attention. When swelling is a warning sign you cannot ignore. The majority of cases of swelling in the legs and feet are benign and respond well to the dietary and lifestyle changes presented in this content. But in some cases, edema can be the sign of a more serious condition that requires immediate medical evaluation. Concerning edema tends to be persistent, not improving with rest or with leg elevation. It may be asymmetric, affecting one side much more than the other. It may come accompanied by pain, redness, warmth, or hardening of the skin in the affected area. When swelling appears together with shortness of breath when lying down, a feeling of heaviness in the chest, irregular heartbeat, or intense fatigue, it may indicate cardiac problems that require urgent investigation. Changes in the volume or color of urine, back pain at the level of the kidneys, or elevated blood pressure associated with swelling also call for clinical evaluation without delay. The simple test you can do right now at home. A simple test called the Godet sign can help assess the severity of edema at home. Press the top of the foot or the shin with your thumb for a few seconds and release. If the indentation remains sunken for more than a few moments, this indicates moderate to intense edema and deserves medical attention. People who use medications such as antihypertensives, corticosteroids, hormonal contraceptives, or calcium channel blockers should also speak with their doctor, as the swelling may be related to the side effects of these drugs. Correct nutrition is a powerful and transformative step, but the right action at the right time is what truly protects your health in the long run. You now have everything you need to get started. The only question that remains is, which of the 7 foods will you include in your